All right. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Two Degrees Podcast, brought to you by the Play On Foundation. Today's guest is not only known for her beauty, if I should say, but she's also known for her brains and what she's doing for the mental health of the entire entertainment industry. And I usually just go straight into intros and bring the person on, but before we get into that, I just want to read this excerpt. And I don't typically do this, but I think I don't want to get any part of it wrong. But Adaire Byerly is bridging the gap between mind and power. Byerly is a licensed practitioner in neuro-linguistics programming and neuroplasticity, also certified in cognitive behavioral therapy techniques. Currently, she's a student of continuing education for neuroscience through Harvard University, and as the CEO and founder of Entertainment Mindframe, Byerly is leading the way for cognitive sciences to be implemented into intellectual and developmental training for professionals in the fashion and entertainment industry. The reason why I wanted to read that is because that excerpt is from Forbes, and in my opinion, that's just badass on all accounts. You are in Forbes, recognized for your business, and I am so excited to be on the opposite end of this call because you're gracious enough to have me on yours, and so I'm so thrilled to have you on mine. But how you doing? It's Adair Byerly. What's going on?
Hey y'all. Yes, I said y'all. I'm from Texas, guys. Originally, I'm from Texas. I'm good. I'm doing well. I'm, just going through life,
Hmm,
doing good.
I hear that. That's a very loaded answer, and I hear that. Life. Um, how did Entertainment Mindframe begin?
I started looking at mind frame really from over the years of observing all this behavior behind the scenes. I'm a professional model, so um, I started back in 2009 is when I became a professional, or I guess you could say broke into the industry, which was great. It changed my life, but I just saw a whole other side of the business that it was just crazy. It was wild, and I observed these patterns behind the stage, and I realized that it wasn't just me that was going through things. It was everybody, no matter what level you're on. And I saw how it was affecting business. I could see how it was affecting people's craft, their art, um, and it was just an issue. And I was like, how are people getting work done? How is this happening? Um,
Hmm.
so I just decided to dive into brain and behavioral science, and it took me about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years to really bridge the two together and say, okay, I want to create something that helps creatives understand what's going on, because I'm big on professionalism, huge on professionalism. I come from a background of entrepreneurs and successful ones at that. And the main reason they were successful is because they knew how to treat people and they knew how to work with people. Um, and I just saw a huge lack of that in the industry. So, so yeah, I buckled down and studied, and I brought it to life just a couple years ago.
Can can you go into if there was like a specific event that happened that sparked this interest, especially to go into behavioral science?
Um, there wasn't really a specific event. I just kept seeing and experiencing so many things. So, just you have those big personalities in the industry that, um, some people are really rude, some people are not reliable, some people use their status um, for as power plays. Um, and I would just see a lot of bad things go on. I was lucky. I was never a victim of sexualization in the industry, but I see it a lot. And I know a lot of people that have had to deal with it. So, I mean, that's just one example. I know that was something that happened recently that came out in the industry, and all these people started getting in trouble for doing these things. But there wasn't really one thing. It was just an accumulation of a decade of working with very unprofessional people. Um,
Yeah.
and it just, because it made me hate what I was doing. It made me hate it. I've met a lot of other people who hate it, and some people just end up leaving. And they're extremely talented, right? Like
Yeah.
these people are amazingly talented, but they can't deal with the bullshit. So they're like, I'm out. I'm just gonna go work in another industry. I don't want to deal with this. And I was like, man, this sucks because we're losing good people. You
Yeah.
know, if it's not by choice, sometimes they just get overwhelmed and start acting weird, acting different, and then they crack, and before you know it, they're in a mental house or
Hmm.
overdosing on drugs or something. Something's going on. So it's just very deep, and I like to know why. I like to know why people do the things they do, and you know. So once I started learning how the brain works, at first I was into psychology, but then I was like, I want to go deeper than that, and that's when the neuroscience part kicked in, and that's really like a whole nother level of, you're talking about the wiring of your mind now, not just your belief system.
Yeah.
So it's really, really, really
And
amazing.
then, did you step away from modeling for a
I
minute,
did, yeah.
or
And I still am. Like
okay?
I model still from time to time, but um, this is more important to me. And even still, the fact that it was kind of inspired by the industry, um, I get to implement it when I do work as a model. And people love being on set with me, and I make the set super, super fun and memorable. Sometimes we talk about stuff that's going on in personal lives, and it helps people. So, um, but yeah, this is my main thing I care about, basically.
And then, did you get into the neurosciences with the intent of bringing it full circle back to modeling, or was there another plan in mind?
No, I just because I like to. So I'm an extremely logical thinker, and I'm really happy that I have that because of that, science has always made sense to me. And when I started to study, it was really like analytical psychology or um, psychoanalysis, which I think one came from Freud and the other one from Carl Jung. But when I started studying that stuff, and I kept hearing about neuroscience in the world of, like, I guess, popularity, because sometimes things hit a trend and then people become interested in it. And I think I did a seminar. I went to a seminar at a brain institute, and a neuroscientist was the one teaching. And when I heard how they broke everything down, I was like, well, this is even more cool. And I just went down a rabbit hole, really. I didn't have any intent to bring it in anywhere or bring it back to anywhere. I just thought I think this is going to tell me more of what I need to understand about people that could help them.
So now, looking at the relationship with the neurosciences, and I guess specifically to the stresses that occur within the entertainment industry, what are some commonalities that you've discovered in regards to how are people mentally suffering within the industry?
Well, I think, let's see if I can say this without sounding too nerdy.
Be as nerdy as you possibly can, please.
Well, one of the things I'm good at is making, breaking science down to where people, anybody can understand it, because sometimes it sounds very, very complicated, because it is. But one of the things I noticed, and so anyone knows who's listening to this, this is the reason I aimed it towards the entertainment industry is because that was just the industry I was in. Since I've done this the past couple of years, because I think that article Forbes came out a while back, I'm going into other industries now, and I'm even working in schools and going into sports and broadcast. So there's all kinds of different industries, because really at the end of the day, you're just dealing with human behavior in the human brain. So the commonalities that I'm going to talk about, you can experience in any industry that you might be working in. Specifically in the entertainment industry, which is what I can speak on pretty confidently, one of the things that I'm noticing, or have noticed, that a lot of people deal with across the board is an overproduction of certain hormones whenever you are chasing your dreams, right? Because when you're chasing your dreams, you are experiencing dopamine. Whenever you get a job, that's more dopamine, more oxytocin. Both of those things are both addicting components that you find in medications that doctors give you. And the dangerous part about that is whenever you do not get a job or something goes wrong, your hormones will stop, and then you drop, and then you experience this really, really low place, which is very normal. The only thing that's kind of scary about the entertainment industry is the constant stimulation from all the opportunities and all of the people that you're around. So it just seems it's a little bit more heightened than it would be if you were going to your 9 to 5 up the street. You know what I'm saying? Because now your whole life depends off of it. Your whole life depends off of this moment, someone saying yes, someone saying no, you working your ass off, being recognized for it. One day your day is coming. Everybody knows that. So we're all betting on that, and we chase after that, and it can become addicting because those hormones are very addicting. And you can have withdrawals when you stop producing those hormones, and your body can experience the same type of pain that that a person that's struggling with addiction would experience. So
Interesting.
that's one thing that I thought was pretty fucking phenomenal, because I was like, wow, people look at these industries and they're like, man, these people are so lucky. They get to do all these cool things, they get to be around these cool people, they seem like they're making a lot of money. What do they have to complain about? And you just don't realize that that type of stimulation is not made for any person to constantly live under. It's really not good for us over time. I was talking to Mandy to say, actually, who is Selena Gomez's mom, and she was talking about how her family, how they just kind of, they were already dealing with, mental health struggles in their family, which is pretty normal. Most people do. And then Selena got famous, and then the whole family just kind of like, it just blew up. You know what I'm saying? And they were like, it's crazy because we got less help. We got less help when we became famous than before, because people just assumed, I guess our problems were solved because we had money now. And she has an entire venture now called Wonder Mind that they just launched because of this. They wanted to make mental health resources accessible to people no matter what, background they come from. So yeah, that's one of the, that's a long answer, but that's
Hmm.
probably one of the things I've seen that, and I know so many people, right? I know so many people, they're like, I don't care about being famous. And these are usually famous people saying
Yeah.
this, or people that are popular leaders. They say this stuff, and I'm like, you say that, but your body is accustomed to it. And if you lost everything, right? Like, let's say something bad happened, you got exposed for something, and you just lost everything. Now you're the enemy. I don't think you'd handle it too well. You wouldn't handle that too well. Most people don't. I mean, that's not, your whole life can flip upside down in a moment. And, we're made to survive every day, just get through life, be comfortable, and, just, I mean, you're in the entertainment industry. It's not really made for that.
Yeah.
It's not. So I'm not saying it's not possible. It is. It's just when I sit down and I talk with creatives or I work with teams and I break this shit down to them, they're like, oh, that's why we keep fighting. Or, oh, that's why so and so keeps going MIA every 3 months. Or, oh, that's why we can't depend on this person. Or that's why we keep losing people and have to get more interns. Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm curious now if, because you related it to addiction, um, if that has any merit on the pride factor of artists that go to LA and then end up becoming homeless because of it, where they're just seeking that gratification, that specific gratification to whatever it is that they're chasing, and then does that relate? Is there any relationship to
Um,
artists going homeless in a sense?
I think it could be, yeah. I mean, I haven't sat and studied that, so I can't say, but I mean, it makes sense just from what I know about, you know, our belief systems, how strong they are, um, how much they filter out what it is that we see,
Yeah.
all the things that we perceive in life. Yeah, I mean, you can get stuck. You can get stuck in this whatever world you're in. It doesn't matter what world you're in, right? You can completely, because that's your reality.
Mm.
That is your absolute reality. There is no other reality other than that. And whatever you dedicate that to, um, it's really interesting because we don't. So our brains are extremely, extremely powerful, and we like to think that we have control when we do, but we really don't because we don't understand how powerful our brains really are.
Mm.
So, when we feel things, which is real, what you feel is absolutely real. Um, doesn't mean that's precise. It just means it's real to you. And, that will dictate every decision you make. Whatever you believe is
Yeah.
real will dictate your decisions. So, and that's dangerous when um, when you're constantly going off of what you feel, and what you feel can be what you think is your intuition. It can be what you think is spiritual. It can be what you think is a sign from the universe. We're very biased in that, and we don't think we are, but we are. We're very blind to it. So I see it. I mean, it makes sense to me. I know. I personally knew someone that was chasing this Hollywood dream and was had a good run for a second. I lost the momentum and just couldn't let it go. Was still, chasing and dropping moments of living their life.
So let's say somebody does come to you in regards to having some kind of withdrawals from whatever it is that they're experiencing, whether it be from the industry or through life. How does neurolinguistic programming and neuroplasticity come into play?
Okay, so neuroplasticity is just the ability for your brain to change at any moment in your life. And, that I would say it's more of a recent discovery. The reason why it's so important is because for the longest time, we've been told that, by the time you become a certain age, your brain is what it is and it's not going to change. And we've seen that that's not true. It's neuroplasticity is literally the reason why people who are told they're never going to walk again actually end up walking again. So it's very powerful because you can train your brain to live again, even after crazy trauma, and that's pretty serious. When you can't walk and you have to teach yourself how to do that again. That shows you how strong your
Yeah.
brain is. So if we can do that with our body, we can definitely do it with our thoughts, right? And neurolinguistic programming is really, so it's funny because it's used a couple different ways, but I like to use it as ways to help people understand what it is that they're perceiving and to do that accurately. So neuro is basically your nervous system, which is from your brain, sends signals through your entire body. Linguistics is our language, whichever that may be, whether that's verbal or nonverbal cues. And then your programming, that's just breaking up or breaking down or building up, a certain, I guess you could say, belief system or operation on how you do things in life. So I guess for me, it's pretty easy because I'm not going to lie, I have a little bit of an advantage because I naturally understand people
Mm.
to a degree that I didn't realize I did until I started doing this. So, if I see any contradiction with somebody, with what they're saying, and if I can see, and when I say contradiction, I mean where someone's talking to me, but their body's telling me something completely different. And that's like the cool part about neurolinguistic programming too, is it's really big on nonverbal communication. And you can see, some people like to say you can tell when people are lying. I would say that's true to an extent. I may not be able to catch people every time, but I can just see when someone's uncomfortable. And your body doesn't lie. Your body does not lie. So, you can give me the whole spill about what you're doing, what you're going through, and I'll talk. And while you're talking, I'm watching, and if your body tells me something else, then I know that there's something we got to work on in regards to your perception, because you're lying to yourself. And usually, once people get to a part of what was the word I'm looking for? It's like unity within themselves, when they're oneness with themselves, which is where they're not lying to themselves about what it is they're dealing with or what they're going through or what they're pursuing. Things just click. It's like the light bulb comes on. And
Yeah.
I don't really have to do a lot of work after that. It's just kind of like helping people get through these moments of cloudiness that they put themselves in, by the way. And a lot of people want to live there. So I think this stuff only works if you want to actually change how you're experiencing your life, And one thing I saw with this is, like, it was really helping people. It was really helping people in the industry because I think you just go, 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 and you don't ever stop and be like, hey, am I okay? Or, I'm feeling uncomfortable, but you don't ever take the time to figure it out because oh, we're tough, you know, well, we're just keep it pushing, just be gangster about it, thug it out. And I'm not saying there's not validity in that to some degree, but it's important not to lie to yourself either. So that's
Yeah.
really important more than anything. And I think it takes a lot of toughness if you want to be tough anywhere. It takes a lot of toughness to look at yourself and say, hey, I'm not being honest with myself. You know, I'm lying to myself. And because I'm lying to myself, I'm lying to everybody else. Um, so, yeah, that causes a problem. It causes a problem in your work. It causes a problem with the decisions you make in your life. Um, you know, if you fall into this one category and you just start living that and you don't really want to be that, well, what the fuck are you doing?
So I guess another way of speaking, neurolinguistic programming then is kind of like forcing yourself into a new habit of doing.
Yeah,
Is that a
it's breaking. Yeah, you can break habits. You can definitely break
hmm,
habits. Some people use it to, so it's a psychological model, and it's been used to help people with depression, anxiety, OCD, phobias, some trauma, because all it does is it just helps you break down why you're seeing what you're seeing, if it's accurate or not, and what that means to you. We misread things all the time. And
how is NLP then different than the phrase "fake it till you make it"?
how's it different? Well, because you're not faking it with NLP. You're not faking it.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, you're not faking it. So NLP, I was very, no, I'll be honest about this. NLP is kind of my last resource that I use because it is not all of the techniques are scientifically proven to work. Okay, it kind of falls into a pseudoscience, but I do know that some of the techniques in there, they do work because they've been they're the same models that are used with certain neuroscientists or certain psychologists. So I know that those work, but for the most part, NLP is also what very, very good magicians use. Like some of the best magicians that have
Huh.
ever lived in our time. That's what they study.
Yeah.
That's what they use because they.
Can you break it down and give me an example of like how a magician would use NLP?
Yes. So, have you ever heard of Banachek? Have you ever heard of him? I don't know if you heard of him or not, but Joe Rogan talks about him quite a bit on his podcast. Um, and Banachek he's considered to be the number one mentalist in the world, the greatest mentalist in the world.
Hmm.
He's taught people like Chris Angel, Penn and Teller, David Blaine, all the people that we know. And he became famous for I guess debunking this church that was this famous church that was basically screwing people out of their money. And they were lying and saying that God was telling them to do this and that, but in reality, they were using magic. They were using magic techniques to con people.
Hmm.
And Banachek exposed them. Banachek also was responsible for fooling scientists. I'd have to find that and send it to you. But he's done a lot of crazy shit, basically. And I was on his show back in the beginning of 2020 when he had read about me. So I went out to Vegas and talked to him, and we talked a lot about NLP because it's something that he uses when he's reading people's minds. He's not really, and he says it, and he says, I'm an entertainer. I don't really have powers. This
Yeah.
is all entertainment. And this is just years and years and years of studying and knowing and understanding the human mind and the human body. So, and he talks about it. He says that people will tell you, and he'll make suggestions. So, I don't know if you've ever seen some really good tricks, but sometimes, they'll limit your perception of things, so you have to choose certain things, and then when they reveal it to you, that's exactly what you were thinking. Or maybe they're reading numbers off of something that's in your pocket, and that's all. Yeah, it's all a part of like singling out people's options, and then reading their body, because the mind just goes to the closest thing that it just saw, and that's with everybody. So it's really, really interesting. And then also, I don't know if you ever heard of what's his name, Chris Voss, I think, the FBI negotiator, who's famous, and he started to teach businesses using NLP, because
I saw that he had like a master class.
Yeah, and he uses it to negotiate with hostages and get them to tell the truth. And at some point, they'll end up catching themselves on why. So it's really interesting how that works. But yeah, I don't use it to manipulate people. That's what most people, I think of it. But there are some really, really helpful techniques in there that if you learn, you just get rid of all that other middle ground noise.
In the field of entertainment, then, when it comes to NLP, and to use NLP in the field of entertainment, is there any then relationship to professional hypnosists, where that's the process that they use in regards to subduing their what would it be, client, victim?
I think they would like it to be referred as a client, but yeah, I've seen them be used together. It's not, for me, the way that I use it is not the same, because I just stay away from anything that's going to tap into somebody's subconscious to where they're not fully aware of what's going on. I don't think that's right, because it's not really helping people. I mean, it can to a degree, but what I want to do is I want to give people techniques that they can implement on their own, and that they can, use to help them. So, I'm more on, since that article came out, by the way, I also just got certified in a behavioral integration course, and I've been studying the neurobiology of trauma, and all these things just really help me understand people.
Neurobiology and trauma?
Yeah, the neurobiology of trauma. Yeah, basically how the brain is wired after you experience trauma.
Can you break it down then in regards to how your brain is affected by trauma, and then how your brain can heal trauma through its thought process?
Yeah, so let's see if there's a simple way for me to say this. So whenever you experience trauma, you are, your brain is immediately wired to whatever happened to you at that time. And trauma can be anything. It doesn't have to be something serious. It can just be any type of major change in your life, deceit of your life. It can be anything. Most people think, when they think of trauma, they think of war veterans, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why it alters your brain so much is because your mind is in fight, flight, or freeze most of the time, especially when you're triggered. You have these hyperarousal moments and you cannot think. You literally can't think, because the front of your brain is shut down. It completely shuts down. And what happens is the hormones in your brain are actually speeding up the memories, but it lowers the accuracy of when those memories happen. So that's why when you're experiencing trauma, you are reliving an event as if it's happening to you right now, but it's not. And you can feel that, and that can be anything. That could even be rejection. Like if you get rejection in a moment, whether it's someone you're trying to date, a job you're trying to get, and that rejection, your brain is wired to the rejection that you received when you were a child. And before you know it, you feel that shit all over again. And it was 30 something years ago, 40 years ago. So yeah, it just affects the way that we accurately perceive threat around us, whether we are actually in danger or not. So I forgot the second part of the question you asked me.
And
I
then
was just
how can
explaining
we use our neurology to heal traumas?
Oh, okay. So, but I mean, besides, you know, studying it, some people say therapy is good, but even the studies are showing now that talk therapy is not working like it was told to work, because we're seeing that talking about things is not, it doesn't help, because we're just reliving it over and over and over again, right? What we have to do is we have to identify where it's coming from. So it's good to know where the root is, but we actually don't have to relive it. We don't have to talk about that. What we have to do is whenever we feel that, we just have to get through that safely, right? So that's why they say things like meditation, even boxing, running, being active, doing maybe some painting or some drawing, all these things that are told to be very therapeutic for the body, they help. And the reason why they help is because it brings your state of mind into the present. If you can stay focused in the present, then you are more likely to get out of a trauma response. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's like the wide range answer for that. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can do it, but being
So
present
then, am I
is the
accurate
thing.
then to surmise that the way to heal trauma then is to just stay present?
It is a way to do that, yes. Now, you can be present and completely avoid your trauma, which is not going to work, right? So you have people that, like I have a friend who's a lot of fun and he's great and he knows how to have a good time and he makes sure everybody else has a good time, but he says it all the time. He's like, I'm like Peter Pan and I'm running from my problems and I don't think I'm ever going to grow up. And he's one of those people that avoids, you know, and he's not a bad person at all. So I'm not saying this to put him on Front Street. I'm just using him as an example because he talks about it and he's open. He avoids all of that, you know, mastering himself. I mean, he works on himself, but you know, sometimes working on yourself is not easy to do. It's really not. I mean, it sounds so, you know, fun and righteous and all that, but it's really not that fun. I mean, let's just be honest. It's not fun digging and getting rid of things that people did to you when you were completely a victim. Sometimes it's not fair, right? To not hold on to the anger and the pain and all the shit, the way you grew up, where you're from, all of that. Like, you got to let all that go, you know, and you have to remove yourself from your story. So I do think, yes, being present can help, but I also think that while you're being present, you have to remove yourself from the story that you tell yourself about yourself, you know, because if not, you being present can just be a distraction from that story.
where you're avoiding it.
Right.
So then, is this then also another example of neuroplasticity?
Yeah. Yeah, it's changing your brain.
It's an interesting way to approach it in regards to, because for me especially, I'm an advocate for talk therapy as well, but it does get to a point where the therapy just becomes redundant if you're not actually working on yourself.
Yeah,
So
well, the reason why is because talking, so there's a certain part of our brain that our words come from, formulating our words come from, but there's also a certain part of our brain where we have experiences and emotions that actually cannot even formulate words. So talking doesn't always help, right? Because our bodies are still experiencing something that we cannot even verbalize. That's why, that's why when I was talking about the neurobiology of it, that's the programming of your neurons, right, after you've experienced trauma. That's why neuroscience is so cool to me, because it talks about that, and it shows, like, you can literally look at a neuron, one that's been damaged and one that's healthy, and it's incredible. I mean, they look like little trees in your head, and if they're not working correctly, they won't fire correctly, which means you're just going to miss the signals that your brain is trying to tell you. So yeah, and then that all goes back to the neuroplasticity of things. So this shit is just amazing to me, which is why I'm so deep into it.
is there a physical science in regards to surgery to repair neurons, or has that not yet been discovered and we just have to kind of repair them ourselves in our heads?
That I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know, because I could probably ask my neuroscience buddy, because she's actually going to school, I believe, to be a doctor. So I would have to ask in terms of surgery, but I don't know if they do or not. I would assume they do. With everything else they have in technology, I'd be surprised if they didn't. I know they do certain stimulation, where they put waves in the brain through the skull, and that's supposed to help, but I don't know if they go in individually and actually touch them.
What's your opinion and your belief on being able to preserve the mind even after the body has died?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on how a person lives their life, because really well, first I'll answer, I think it could be done. I think it could be done. I'm not sure how, but I think it could be done, because we have so many other organs, that we use after we die. And the brain is just so complicated. They still haven't figured a lot out yet, but I think eventually it will get there. But I also will say that a lot of the time what we've seen, so heart, right? The heart, we seem to know a lot about the heart as an organ. We know what not to eat that's bad for our heart. We know what to eat. We know that we should work out. We know we shouldn't sleep all day. We know we shouldn't be under a lot of stress, because your heart can shut down, right? You can get clogged. You can get fat in certain areas that aren't supposed to be there, and it kills you. So our understanding of the heart is way advanced compared to our understanding of the brain, right? And we've started to see that people are also dying because their brains are dying. Their brains are slowly shutting down. Sometimes we have freak accidents, we die. Sometimes our heart causes us to die. Sometimes it's cancer. Sometimes there's other stuff. But most of the time, if none of those things are happening, it could just be your brain shutting down. Which is why people who live to be really old, they tend to have pretty good brains.
Yeah.
they're sharp. They can still, perceive the world around them. They still know how to do certain things. Um, the reason some people, like I have a family member right now that's, slowly passing, and parts of her brain is just shutting down to where she's forgetting
Sorry
how
to
to
hear.
eat. She's forgetting how to use the bathroom. And so it's things like that. Like if someone were to pass, we probably couldn't use a brain like that, but um, yeah, but I do think that, there is, because it's been shown, if you can take care of your brain like you take care of your heart, you're probably going to live longer.
Now, you brought up a very specific word, and I'd like to hear your professional opinion on it. But what does stress do to the body?
What does it mean to me?
What does stress do to the body?
Oh, what does it do to the body? Shit, everything. Yeah, that's a hard one because stress is not always bad, by the way. And for example, like, if you're working out in the gym, you're putting certain stress on your muscles and your body that your body's not used to. So stress is just really a major amount of change in a small period of time. That's usually what stress is. It can be good or bad. If it's bad, too much stress can hurt you. Absolutely. Most people think of stress as a bad thing, but it's not. It's just uncomfortable because it's just it's a lot for your body to take at one time. Like for women when they're giving birth, if we were giving birth over a month instead of, 2 to 4 hours or 5 hours, 8 hours, we probably wouldn't have such terrible births. But it's a lot of stress on the body at one time. So stress can just cause you, it can cause you to go into, at least in a mental place, it can cause you to go into a place of survival. It can shut certain parts of your brain down. It can cause certain parts of your nervous system to overreact. Your heart can beat fast. A lot of people that deal with anxiety deal with this whenever they start experiencing stress. Their nervous system is immediately over respondent, and then they can't control it after that. Now it's out of their control because their body's just going somewhere else. But stress can kill you. It absolutely kills you. And the amazing part about that is when I was studying the neurobiology of trauma, stress can actually, it has almost everything to do with your epigenetics and how certain things turn on and off in your DNA, right? So for instance, when you go to the doctor and they ask you, do you have any history of ABCD? Some of those things they ask you do not run in your bloodline. But when I say that, I mean they're not actually genetic. So just because your father or mother had cancer does not mean you're going to have cancer.
Yeah.
It does not mean that. What it does mean, though, is you have a predisposition of cancer in your family. And if you are under enough stress, the telomeres on the end of your DNA will unravel, and then you will develop cancer. So it's the same thing with back problems. Your spine is not hereditary either, but we tend to have the same back problems as our parents do, or our siblings, and we have the same posture. So this just has to do with the way that we handle life, the way that we respond to life.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that answers your question or not, but
Yeah.
stress can, it goes all the way, but for the worst part of it, it can kill you. Yeah, it can kill you. It can turn on all the bad stuff in your DNA, and you can start dealing with all kinds of illnesses that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because of stress.
I'm curious to know how your conversation went with Mayim and if you got out everything that you wanted to ask and how you were reacting in regards to just being a huge fan of her and what she does.
Oh, when I got to talk with her. Yeah, no, that was pretty cool when I spoke to her. Um, it was her and her business partner, and it was pretty fun. But talking to her was like it was like I'd known her forever. Um, yeah, it was really cool. I thought I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I thought maybe she was gonna be like, "Oh my God, I just want to get this interview over with." But no, she was actually like, I mean, she told me, which I was so excited about. And I have this on recording, so I'm not lying. But she told me that like I was absolutely fascinating and she could talk to me for hours.
Hmm.
Um, so she was like, she loves the way that I think. And it was just amazing, you know, and it was cool hearing her stories with things that she's experienced in the industry. And you know, she's a very, can you hear my son sneezing in the background?
Yeah.
Because I totally just saw my phone pick that up.
That's all good.
um, yeah, no, she shared her stories about things that happened to her in the industry, and you know, it was just cool. She was very, I loved her. I literally loved her. So that was probably Carter. I'm on a call. Okay, sorry. Yeah, she was amazing. She was amazing. That was a pretty cool moment
Mm,
to get to talk to her. She made me feel
nice.
very comfortable.
That's fun. We're nearing the end of this call, but I also wanted to bring up one more thing in regards to something that you got going on. Um, and I'm going to try my best to get this out as soon as possible for you. We missed the first one, but there's still three more talks. But you have what would you call this? Like a series of talks going on, the Conversations with Women's Voices of Downtown Fort Worth.
It's
Talk to us about
DFW,
that.
so yeah, it's the Dallas Fort Worth. DFW stands for Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex.
Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
Downtown Cowtown. That's what I was coming up with.
yeah, so there was this that's actually so um this guy that has a theater, he okay, let me say this better. One of my former teachers opened this theater downtown. I mean, actually, he refurbished and redid this entire theater. It was in shambles. And one of the guys that worked there, who's the event coordinator, came up with this idea to have really powerful women in the Metroplex get on stage and just talk about things they don't really share. So they were looking for someone to moderate this. First, they were, you know, looking at certain news anchors, you know, maybe some social media influencers, and then they were like, "Oh my God, let's ask Adaire. She does this all the time." So I did my first one with them. It was really cool.
Yeah.
It was with Kelly Raspberry, who was known for being on the Kid Craddock morning show. And then we have three more coming up. Our next one is on February 8th. And it's with Tashara Parker, who was famous or kind of became famous, actually. She was already working as a news anchor and journalist on Channel 8 News. And she got a lot of flack because she wore her natural hair. She's a Black woman. She wore her natural hair and she wore a lot of Black hairstyles. It was not reciprocated well with the public and the networks. They gave her a very hard time, and she fought to keep her hair the way she wanted to wear it. And she kind of like, she became famous because of that. And she still wears her hair. She wears her hair however she wants. As you should, right? And her hair always looks cool. Like, it's cool. It's almost cool to tune in and see what her hair is going to look like that day, you know, because she's, I mean, you know, people, cultural people, like, our hair is just, you know, our hair, the way we dress is just, that's how we express ourselves. So she's my next one. It's going to be really cool to talk to her, but we basically, on the talks, we just go into, you know, all the things that they've experienced as women, any advice they give. We do a Q&A at the end. It's pretty cool. It's very intimate. The cool thing about it is it's not live streaming. It's not recorded. This is actually an event where you have to come and sit down, and it's limited. I think it's like 500 max people can come. But whatever you get in there is between you and the rest of everybody in there. It's not for the public. So they're very cool. They're intimate, and it's a way to kind of get to know these people
So are you
behind
allowed
their
then
status.
to tease some of the questions that you're looking forward to asking for Tashara, for Betsy, and for Chris?
Yeah, usually the question I like to ask is I ask them about things that they're misunderstood on, like what's the number one thing that people misunderstand about you, and what is something that you want people to really know about you that no one would guess. Those are always really emotional answers, always, because they don't ever, I don't think they ever get asked that, you know. And then I asked them about things like if there was ever an event that took place, you know, while you were, you know, in your line of work and you had to show up for work, was there anything that happened that made you want to quit? Whether, you know, and it could be anything in your personal life, anything at work. And then they share that story, whatever it was. My last one, she's a radio host, and she shared how when her husband left her when she was 6 months pregnant, and nobody knew about it, and she kept it private, and she didn't have a baby until she was 40. Like, she was 40 years old pregnant, and she never thought she would be in that position, and he just left her. He just up and left her, and she never took it upon herself to bash him or make him look bad, but she would go into work dealing with that situation, and nobody knew about it. And she's a huge public figure, you know, so it's just things like that. They really help you see people as people, and not, you know, oh, this is my celebrity crush, or this is the woman I look up to, this is the woman I want to be like. Like, it's, you know, you just get to hear them talk as people, and it's fun. They share, because of the setting, they share a little bit more than they would if there were cameras in the room.
That's cool.
Kind of cool. A little
How
VIP
political
treatment.
are you how political are you intending on getting with Betsy Price?
Oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna do that one, because I really don't. I'm not a very political person. At least in terms of, you know, being heavy in it to where I live my life daily with it in my vocabulary. But, you know, yeah, I'm gonna have to see that one, see how I'm gonna do that one. I'm excited about Chris Boyd, I think. Well, I'm really excited about all of them, but Chris Boyd, I think that's gonna be my favorite one that I do.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I look forward to hearing about all that. So yeah, for everybody that's still listening, and that happens to be in Dallas, Fort Worth, February 8th, You'll catch Adaire with Tashara Parker, and on March 15th, she'll be there with former Mayor Betsy Price, and on April 12th with Chris Boyd. So check that out, and I wish you the best with those shows, and I look forward to hearing about how all of them go. And maybe we can have you back afterwards and go over
Yeah.
some of go over some of those answers. But before we leave, um, I'll flip the question to you then. What's something about you that you want people to know that you might have been misunderstood?
Uh, oh man. I think, well, I'm only saying this because I'm a model, but which I think people would find this ironic, but I really do not care about the way I look at all. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
y'all
not a
should have
very
seen her
vain.
when she logged in and we had video on. Yeah, I can vouch for that. I'm joking. I'm joking.
That's how I
She
look
looked
all the
great.
time. Yeah, I'm very yeah, I'm not vain. Like a lot of people think I am. I guess they assume I am. I'm not. I'm not. I just the person that I look like is not who I am. I'll just say that. So I get a lot of people just assume that my life is a certain way, and you know, I'm bougie, or which I can be to a degree, but I enjoy enjoying things in life.
Yeah.
Um,
So then, curious as to why you chose to stay in this industry, considering that is the perception that people garner from it.
because I just got to a point where I was like, I don't care. I don't do anything because of other people, because I know me, right? Anybody that knows me and works with me knows me enough uh, to know, you know, yeah, she is who she is. I mean, I have a lot of gifts that this industry offers me to make money off of, right? I can't do that in other industries. So, of course, I'm going to stay in the industry that brings the dough.
Yeah, fair.
And, but it brings me amongst a lot of people, great people that I would never meet if I worked in different industries. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that is a good answer. I feel like that's kind of a shallow answer, but yeah.
No, that
And
makes
I wish,
sense. That's
what I do wish people understood about me is I'm so extremely powerfully loving. I'm a very powerfully loving person. And I don't mean loving as in like, I'm going to cook for you and spoil you loving. I just mean in terms of seeing a person for who they are, accepting a person, forgiving a person. I'm a very,
Are you perceived otherwise then? Or do you find that
um,
you're perceived otherwise sometimes?
no, I think people just, I don't think that's a perception thing. I think most people just aren't that way. Most people aren't as I'm not going to say like people don't love like I do. I can't say that because I'm not saying this in terms of romance. Um, you know, I just mean the way I am with people. Um, I'm an extremely, I just see people for who they are, and for some reason I understand them, whoever it is. If I don't, I'll tell them like I don't understand you, but for the most part, it's very, very easy for me to connect with another human being. And I think that most people don't expect that because, you know, when they first see me, they're like, oh, she probably doesn't even want to talk to me, or I'm not even going to bother her. She looks mean.
Would you attribute that then to like your modeling then and what they perceive in the pictures versus how they
No,
could
no, I
perceive
wouldn't
you in
just
real
say,
life?
no, that's both.
Hmm,
That's in modeling and in just in real life, in
gotcha.
person.
Hmm,
Yeah, because when I walk in a room, and I don't mean to do this, I hear this a lot everywhere I go. People be like, you act like you own the place.
hmm.
And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to. I just have
Yeah.
a really powerful presence. I'm very sweet, so I'm not like this woman that's going around beating her chest or anything, but um, I'm just, I don't know, I guess I'm just
I'm
very
curious to
grounded
learn
in who
more
I
about
am.
what those people mean when they say you look like you own the place, because that sounds like a positive thing to me, but then it sounds as if they were to say it in a more negative sense.
Yeah, it just depends on who it's coming from.
Hmm,
Some people like it, some
interesting.
people are offended.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, no, that's me. I've always been that way.
Have you looked in the mirror when you walk in the room? Maybe you have
I don't think
that
it's my
resting bitch
face.
face that everybody.
I mean, yeah, I do have that sometimes. But I don't think it's my face. I think it's just my whole. Um, I think it's just my aura. I think it's my energy. It's what I believe about myself. I really love
Yeah,
myself a lot, like
yeah.
in a healthy way. Um, I always choose myself over um, situations that are not good for me.
Mhm.
And eventually, I give everybody a chance. I give everybody the opportunity. But I'm not a fool. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess I have my limitations on things I deal with. And I think my boundaries are really good. I think I have pretty good
Mhm.
boundaries.
There you go. I think that should be like a little tagline for your talk, where it's like, well, this is who you are. This is what you want people to know. We've solidified it in a podcast. This is what you want people to know.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Adaire, thank you so much for lending your time. And even though like we had to switch it up last minute because you're just too busy for me now. You got model shoots, photo shoots going on, and the world just wants you. So I'm grateful and thankful for the time. So you're awesome for coming out.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And I would love to be back on in the future.
Yeah, sweet. Well, everybody, thanks for tuning in. The 2 Degrees podcast brought to you by the Play On Foundation. And don't forget to check out everything Adaire has going on and the Entertainment Mind Frame. And see if y'all can find that Forbes article and just be in as much awe as I was when I first came across it. Because to be in Forbes is that's the, I don't know what exactly in regards to just making it as a business from an entrepreneurial standpoint, like of course Forbes. So yeah, that's the level that she's on. But thank y'all for coming out, and y'all stay safe.